Everyone, now let's continue. We will introduce the NETCONF this lab, and in this lab, we will use the another modules, and the module its name is the NC client, and we will use the NC client to deliver configurations to the device, and you will find that we will use the NC client to deliver the NetConf message to the device. So we need to open the NetConf functions on our device, and how do we open the NetConf functions? By using our device, we will use the parameter. Yes, yes, we will use parameter just that we introduced in last experiment. We will use this to configure the netconf functions by scribe. And of course, you can just open the netconf functions by yourselves, and you will find that the experiment, the scribe will be much easier. So you will find that the topology is the same. We have one switches, and the switch its name is access1, and we have a PC, its PC name is PC1. We use the PC1, use the parameter modules, log into the access1, and then we'll open and we will execute the command, and the command is have already been saved in one file. We will use our scribe to read the file and execute the command that have already been written in the file, and then we will open the netconf functions, and then we will use the NC client, use this to send the netconf message to the switches, and then we will use it to configure something. And let's look at the route map. The first thing is the configure the basic configurations on the switch. It means configure the when if, and then we need to configure the SSH for the access ones. And you will find that for the first two step of this experiment, it is the same with the SSH. So we don't need to repeat it just because we have already finished this part. All right. And then what is next? The next is we need to write a scribe. The scribe will open the netconf on the device, and you should know that we will use it to read a file, and the files have already saved the configurations, and then we will use the file to open the netconf functions, and then we will deliver the configurations through the netconf protocols. Now let's look at the procedures. The first thing is configure the IP address for the VLAN 1. We have already finished it. And then we need to configure the SSH functions. You should know that we have already finished it, but we still need to configure another command. It is we need to enter the AA wheel and configure this command. We need to enter the AA wheel. And this wheel, it is the local AA user password policy administrators, and in this wheel, we will disable functions. It means the device will not notifications that after the first login. It will not notify you to change your password. So it will make our scribe much easier. If we don't disable these functions, it means we need to judge the output informations, and we need to input some choice. And then it is the same. We need to create ancestry users. We have already finished it. And then what is next? The next is we need to write the scribe. We'll use the parameter to log into the device and invoke the local configuration scribe to enable netconf on the device. And of course, you can just configure it by yourself. And we will use netconf to set this description of the interface, and set this interface is describing information to configure by netconf through the client. The first thing is we need to prepare your local fields, and in these fields we will prepare this command. You can find that it is how to enable NETCONF functions on the device. You find that when you configure a user and this user is its name is NETCONF, and config its privilege level is the 15, and its service type is API. And we need to enable the NETCONF functions globally and config its source IP address. And I have already prepared the configurations. You can find that it is in this place. At the moment, I need to check which is this place. And wait a moment, I need to check it where I store my configurations files. It should be in the read file. Wait a moment. Read file. Second port, password, file name, netconf, file name, document K, netconf. All right, I already found it. Document K, K. NetConf. You can find that this is the configuration files, and we can try to find what is inside it. All right. It is just the config that we mentioned before, and we will use this command to open the NetConf features. And then, now I think we can just try to execute the script. But before we execute the script, you should know that for your environment, by default, we don't have this module on the client. So you need to use this command, pipe, or you use this command to install the NC client. And then we need to configure the full code, and we have already finished it. And just like us try to run it. Wait a moment. And I think we should finish it before. Yes, we should finish it before. It is the same, and it will just let us try to run it. Wait a moment. I need to check which place is wrong. Wait a moment. NetConf.txt. Wait a moment, and I think I need to check the script and oh, wait a moment, just because and I think wait a moment, not password. Yes, we need to change one configurations on the device. Just because before in our previous live, the authentication method for the SSH it is the public key, but now we need to change it to the password. And then let's try to run it again. You find that now we have already logged in successfully. And then you can find that it is our, wait a moment, could not open. Wait a moment, and enablement will be, oh, wait a moment. And I think we leak a command. Enable it. You can find that the output information, our script have already tried to execute the command, but for this, netconf enable command will cause STP enables continue, and so I think inside our script, and I think we need to add a new line to it. And then we can just try to run it again. Being delayed, please wait. And I think still we need to by this command we need to let's wait for a time or otherwise wait a moment, time sleep, and I think the sleep time should be much more longer. Maybe it should be 1 second. Or maybe it can be longer. Wait a moment, it should be 10 seconds. It will be 2 seconds. Wrongly. Now, you can find that we have already configured the NETCONF functions on the device successfully. And then just let check the if the scribe have already configured the describe information on the device, just let enter this interface. Now you can find that for this interface, it have already a describe information and it is not configured by myself. And one moment, and to enable assembly traversal. And you can find that we have a lot of information, and you can find that configurations have already been changed, and username is the system. It means the system it changed the configurations by itself. So let's check it. Now just let's review what we do on the experiment. And the first thing is we need to import the NC client. All right, we use two classes in the NC client. It is manager and operations, and we still need to import parameter and time. And it should know that we use the time just to control the running time, the running period of the between two commands. And then what is next? The next is we need to define the device parameters variables. Just we will use these variables to log into device. You will find that the IP address, the username, password, and those three variables is used for the parameter modules. And then the netconf users and netconf password will be used by the NC client. And the next one, the field name, it will be used by the parameters. And then what is next? Then we just declare a class and we name it as SSH. And in this class, we'll create some functions, and these functions will be familiar. It just use the script that we write in previous experiment. You will find that this method it will require the IP, username, and password, those three variables, and you find that it just like the same things that we write in the SSH lib. And then we use another functions or method. It is the SSH config. You find that we will use it to create a connections, and then we will use it to send the command. All right, and between and then you will find that the command that we send it is inside. We will use a file. All right, we will open a file, and we will use this method read lines to read the command that have already been saved in the file, and then we will use a for command. This method will just to read every command that have already been saved in the file, and execute one and sleep for just half 1 second, and then we'll receive after all the commands that be written in the fields be executed, we will try to output the display informations. All right, and then that is all the things we do inside the SSU config and the SSU connection method. And what is next? The next is we define Huawei connections, and you will find that in this we just define Huawei connections, all right, and it requires the host port, username, and the passport functions. It will set the IP address of the NetConf host port and NetConf username and NetConf password for the functions. And the return result of the function is the manage connection method of the NC client. And you will find that it will return manage connection. And this method, it will require those variables. And this method is used to establish NetConf connections. The parameter is defined in FC, all right? And two options are available to devise parameters on Huawei device. The first one is the Huawei, and another one is the Huawei Young. And you can find that in this experiment, we use the Huawei. And then what is next? The next you should know that the most important part is how to build XML files. And for this part, you can find it on in the product document. For example, for this switch, and for these switches, you can find it on the product document. For examples, you can find that on the wait a moment on the interface type command lines. Wait a moment, and you can find that we have a NetConf Young API reference, and inside it you can find the NetConf API list. For example, citing a device name or device state management or the config management. All right, and you can find, for example, for the wait a moment, configure the user interface, configure the just use the configure the SSH survey, and you can find that it have the data modules and all, and you can find that it will have request examples. You will find that it is the examples for the XML files, and it will tell you what the item means. For example, for this ones, the values it will choose, it means enables the STLNet service, all right? And you can just find it in this place, all right? And for example, config the interface describe and config the interface, config the PNP VLAN. For examples, for configure the PNP VLANs, you can find that the examples for that. You can find that the different items have different meanings. And for this part, it is the examples, and you can find that. For example, the PNP VLAN numbers, you can find that this is the interface, and wait a moment, and that is in this part. It is the PNP VLAN numbers. Just you can find that you have the examples on the product document, and it will give you the descriptions about every items. So you can just use this to build your XML files. And what is the last? The last is we will use a main functions, and inside of these main functions, we will create a SSU config. All right, you find that the SSU config, it will just assign the file name, IP, use password. Those variables is defined globally. All right, just in the beginning of the script. After you should know that after we run this method, the SSH, the netconf functions will be configured on the device. And what is next? The next is we will use the Huawei connection just to connect just to connect it. Okay, just to connect it, and then we use the edit configurations. It should know that it is the management that belongs to it belongs to the management connection, all right? And it will require the target and config. Target means which database you will configure, and config it finds that it require variables, and these variables we have already defined create interface, and its value is this, and you find that for these values you can find that on our product document. So that is all the content about the NetConf experiment. And if you have any questions, you can type it. If you don't have any questions, we will go to another lessons.